Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The village of Umidim lay nestled among rolling hills, its dusty roads winding through clusters of mud houses with thatched roofs. In this picturesque yet impoverished community, laughter often masked struggles, and stories were the currency of solace. It was here that Emeka, a young man of 28, toiled daily under the scorching sun, tending to his family's meager farmland. Emeka's family home was a testament to their hardships: cracked walls that let in the cold night air, a leaking roof that turned every rainstorm into a nightmare, and a single wooden bench that served as both a dining table and a meeting point. His father, Papa Obi, sat outside the house most evenings, humming old Igbo folk songs while sharpening his farming tools. Despite his age, Papa Obi radiated a wisdom and optimism that had kept the family afloat during their darkest days. A life of hardship. From a young age, Emeka knew the sting of poverty. He had watched his mother barter vegetables for salt, and his father labored tirelessly to make ends meet. Their farm produced barely enough to eat, let alone sell at the market. Yet, it was the villagers' mockery that cut the deepest. Emeka the dreamer, they called him, smirking as he passed by with his rusty wheelbarrow. Dream all you want, but dreams don't fix leaking roofs. The women were even harsher. Emeka, hoping to find companionship, had approached several women in the village, only to be met with scornful laughter. "Can you even afford my bride price?" one had asked, her words like a knife twisting in his chest. Another had jeered, "Maybe you'll sell your father's bicycle to marry me." Papa Obi's wisdom. Amidst this, Papa Obi's words were Emeka's anchor. Each night, as they sat under the starry sky, Papa Obi would share tales of resilience and hope. "Son," he would say, his voice steady and filled with conviction, "there is hope in a living dog than in a dead lion. Keep your hands clean, work hard, and trust that your time will come." These words became a mantra for Emeka, giving him the strength to wake up each morning and face a world that seemed determined to break him. A glimmer of hope. One day, as Emeka rested under the shade of a palm tree, he noticed a group of children playing nearby. They laughed without a care in the world, their joy untainted by the burdens of adulthood. Watching them, Emeka felt a surge of determination. He refused to let his circumstances define him. "Papa," he said that evening, "one day, I'll change our story. I'll make you proud." Papa Obi smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride. "I already am proud, my son. But remember, greatness is built one brick at a time. Stay true to yourself." As the days turned into weeks, Emeka threw himself into his work with renewed vigor. Little did he know, life was about to take an unexpected turn. Foreshadowing the future. One morning, as Emeka prepared to head to the farm, a neighbor approached him with a cryptic warning. "Emeka," the old man said, his voice low, "the ground you till holds secrets. Be careful where you dig." Emeka dismissed the remark as the ramblings of an eccentric elder. Yet, as he stepped onto the farm that day, a strange sense of anticipation filled the air. The earth beneath his feet seemed to hum with possibility, as if it held a story waiting to be uncovered. In the bustling heart of Umidim village, where the market square came alive with chatter and the clinking of trade, there lived a young woman named Ifee. She was a quiet figure, often seen seated by the entrance of her modest hut, working diligently at her sewing machine. The rusty contraption was her only inheritance from her late mother, and with it she mended torn clothes for the villagers to eke out a living. Ifee was an orphan, her parents having succumbed to illness during her teenage years. Despite her circumstances, she carried herself with quiet dignity, her soft voice and kind demeanor endearing her to the elderly women who often sought her services. However, among her peers, Ifee was a source of ridicule. "She's just as poor as Emeka," they would sneer. Maybe they should marry each other and combine their misery. Ifee ignored the jabs, pouring her energy into her work. Like Emeka, she harbored dreams of a better future, though hers were modest, owning a proper sewing machine, perhaps, or saving enough to start a small tailoring shop. Little did she know, her path was about to intertwine with Emeka's in a way that would change both their lives forever. Chance encounter. One humid afternoon, Emeka was returning from the farm, his shirt drenched with sweat and his wheelbarrow laden with cassava. As he passed the market square, a gust of wind scattered a pile of fabric scraps near Ifee's sewing table. He stopped to help her gather them, noticing the weariness in her eyes and the threadbare condition of her dress. "Thank you," Ifee said softly, tucking a stray braid behind her ear. "It's nothing," Emeka replied, his voice gentle. "These fabrics are your livelihood. They should be treated with care." They exchanged a few more words before Emeka continued on his way, but that brief interaction lingered in his mind. There was a resilience in Ifee that mirrored his own, and he found himself wondering what burdens she carried. A growing friendship. Over the weeks that followed, Emeka and Ifee began crossing paths more often. Sometimes it was at the market, where Ifee would be buying thread, or on the dusty road leading to the stream where she fetched water. Their conversations grew longer, their laughter more frequent. They shared stories of their struggles, Emeka about the ridicule he faced, and Ifee about the loneliness of having no family to turn to. One evening, as they sat beneath the giant iroko tree near the edge of the village, Emeka found himself speaking words he hadn't planned. "Ifee," he began, his voice hesitant but sincere, "I know life has been unkind to us. But when I'm with you, it feels less heavy. Would you consider building a future with me?" Ifee's eyes widened in surprise. She had seen Emeka's kindness and strength, but she had never imagined he would propose something so bold. Yet, as she looked into his earnest eyes, she felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. "Yes, Emeka," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will." Facing the mockery. News of their courtship spread through the village like wildfire, and the reactions were swift and cruel. Two beggars marrying each other? What a joke, the young women scoffed. "They'll probably have to borrow the bride price," a man jeered, drawing laughter from the crowd. Emeka and Ifee bore the taunts with quiet dignity. They knew their union was about more than material wealth. It was about finding solace and strength in each other. Still, the mocking stung, especially when Emeka overheard one of his former admirers laughing with her friends. "Can you imagine?" she said. "He picked a seamstress who can barely afford thread. Poverty really is blind." Despite the ridicule, they pressed on, planning a modest traditional ceremony. Ifee approached an elderly couple who had been like surrogate parents to her, asking them to stand in for her late parents. They agreed readily, touched by her trust in them. The wedding day. The day of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the morning sun bathing the village in golden light. Emeka had scraped together enough money to buy a simple but beautiful outfit for Ifee, and she had spent hours sewing her own veil. The ceremony was held under the shade of the iroko tree, with only a handful of well-wishers in attendance. As they exchanged vows, Emeka's heart swelled with a mix of joy and defiance. This was his moment, their moment, and no amount of ridicule could tarnish it. Yet, the villagers' laughter could be heard even from a distance. "They didn't even have a proper feast," someone sneered. "Just a bowl of jollof rice and some palm wine." "Perfect match," another added. "Poverty plus poverty equals more poverty." But Emeka and Ifee paid them no mind. They returned to their small home, hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. A bond forged in adversity. In the days following their wedding, Emeka and Ifee fell into a rhythm of shared labor and quiet companionship. They worked side by side in the fields and shared stories over simple meals. At night, under the canopy of stars, they dreamed of a future that seemed impossibly far away. One evening, as they sat outside their hut, Papa Obi joined them, his presence a comforting reminder of their shared resilience. "You two remind me of young palm trees," he said, his voice tinged with affection. "Each one stands alone at first, struggling against the wind. But when they grow together, their roots intertwine, making them stronger." His words filled Emeka and Ifee with renewed determination. They knew their journey would be long and difficult, but they also knew they had each other, and that was enough. Unbeknownst to them, Fate was about to intervene in a way neither could have imagined. Life after marriage was not easy for Emeka and Ifee. The land Emeka farmed yielded barely enough to sustain them, and Ifee's sewing business brought in only a trickle of income. Yet, their love and determination shielded them from despair. Each day, Emeka woke before dawn, the cool morning air carrying the scent of dew and freshly turned earth. He worked tirelessly, clearing weeds and planting cassava, yams, and vegetables, his hands blistered from years of labor. Ifee, meanwhile, sat by the doorway of their modest hut, mending clothes and dreaming of buying a new sewing machine. One particular morning, as the sun rose over the hills of Umidim, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, Emeka felt a strange sense of purpose. Something in the air felt different. His father, Papa Obi, noticed his son's contemplative expression. "Emeka," he said, his voice steady, "remember, the earth holds secrets. Sometimes, when you dig deep, you find more than you expected." Emeka smiled at his father's wisdom, though he didn't quite understand it. With a hoe slung over his shoulder, he headed to the field, unaware that this day would change his life forever. A glimmer beneath the soil. Emeka worked under the scorching sun, sweat dripping down his face as he tilled the stubborn soil. He was clearing the land for planting when his hoe struck something solid. At first, he thought it was a rock, a common obstacle in the fields. But as he bent down to investigate, he noticed something unusual. The object glimmered faintly in the sunlight filtering through the trees. Curious, Emeka dropped to his knees and began digging with his hands, the soil cool against his fingers. His heart pounded as the glimmer grew brighter. After several minutes of digging, he uncovered a smooth, transparent stone the size of his fist. It sparkled like nothing he had ever seen before, its surface catching the sunlight and refracting it into tiny rainbows. "What is this?" Emeka muttered to himself, his voice trembling with a mix of awe and disbelief. He quickly wrapped the stone in his shirt and glanced around, his instincts telling him to keep this discovery a secret. With the precious object secured, he hurried home, his mind racing with questions and possibilities. The revelation. When Emeka arrived home, he found Papa Obi sitting under the irako tree, humming a folk tune. The sight of his father's familiar, weathered face brought Emeka a sense of calm amid his excitement. "Papa," he said, unfolding the shirt to reveal the stone. "Look what I found." Papa Obi's eyes widened as he held the stone in his trembling hands. He studied it closely, his experienced gaze recognizing its value. "Do you know what this is, my son?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emeka shook his head. "I just know it's not ordinary." "This is a diamond," Papa Obi said, his voice trembling with awe. "A real diamond. The kind that can change our lives forever." Ifee, who had been listening from the doorway, gasped. She rushed forward, her hands covering her mouth as she stared at the sparkling gem. "But how can we be sure, Papa?" Emeka asked, his excitement tempered by caution. "We must go to the city," Papa Obi said firmly. "I have a friend, Mr. Chidi, who is a goldsmith. He will tell us if it's real." A journey to the city. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Emeka and Papa Obi set out for the city. They carried the diamond in a small cloth pouch, hidden beneath Emeka's shirt. The journey was long and tiring, but their excitement and nervous anticipation kept them moving. When they arrived at Mr. Chidi's workshop, the older man greeted them warmly. His shop was filled with glittering trinkets and tools, the air thick with the scent of metal and polish. After listening to their story, Mr. Chidi examined the diamond under a magnifying glass. His reaction was immediate and dramatic. He let out a loud exclamation, his eyes wide with astonishment. "This is worth billions," he exclaimed, his voice ringing through the workshop. Emeka and Papa Obi stared at him, their mouths agape. They had hoped the diamond was valuable, but they hadn't dared to dream it could be worth so much. "I know a man," Mr. Chidi continued, "a dealer in precious stones. He will pay you handsomely for this." A life-changing sale. The following day, Mr. Chidi arranged a meeting with the wealthy dealer. The man, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, inspected the diamond with practiced precision. His face lit up with a mixture of greed and admiration. "This is exquisite," he said, his voice smooth. "I'll buy it immediately." The dealer offered a staggering sum, transferring the money directly to Emeka's account. The amount was so large that Emeka struggled to comprehend it. For the first time in his life, he was a billionaire. The first steps of a new life. With Mr. Chitty's guidance, Emeka and his family began planning their new life. They bought a beautiful house in the city, complete with modern amenities they had only dreamed of. Ifee enrolled in a prestigious fashion school, determined to pursue her passion for design. Meanwhile, Emeka explored opportunities to start a business, his mind brimming with ideas. Despite their sudden wealth, they remained humble. Papa Obi, ever the voice of wisdom, reminded them to stay grounded. "Money is a tool, not a master," he said. "Use it wisely and it will serve you well." Returning to Umidim. One of their first decisions was to return to Umidim to transform their family home. Over the next few months, they built a magnificent mansion on the land where their old house had stood. The villagers who had once mocked Emeka could only watch in stunned silence as the mansion rose from the ground. When the family arrived in a sleek black SUV to move into the new house, the same villagers who had laughed at them now gaped in awe. The young women who had scorned Emeka whispered among themselves, their faces pale with regret. "God can truly change anyone's story," one of them murmured. Emeka and Ifee spent a week in the village, hosting a feast for everyone and sharing their story of perseverance and faith. Despite their newfound wealth, they treated everyone with kindness, refusing to hold grudges. The symbol of hope. As they left the village to return to the city, Emeka turned to look at the mansion one last time. It stood as a testament to their journey, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of never giving up. "Papa," Emeka said, his voice filled with emotion, "you were right. Hard work and faith have brought us here." Papa Obi smiled, his eyes glistening with tears. "And this is just the beginning, my son." Little did they know, their story was far from over. A new chapter begins. The once impoverished family of Emeka Obi stepped into a world they had only glimpsed in their dreams. The mansion they built in Umidim became the talk of the village, its modern architecture and gleaming windows a stark contrast to the mud houses that dotted the landscape. Inside, marble floors reflected the sunlight, and the scent of freshly polished wood lingered in the air. It was a home born of resilience and hard work, a testament to their journey. Despite their wealth, Emeka and Ifee remained grounded. Papa Obi, ever the guiding light of the family, reminded them daily, "We are stewards of this fortune. Use it wisely and it will multiply. Abuse it, and it will vanish like the morning mist." With these words echoing in their hearts, the family began building a legacy of purpose. Building dreams. Emeka's long-held dream was to run a furniture business. With their newfound resources, he rented a large workshop in the city and hired skilled carpenters to work alongside him. He invested in modern tools and machinery, ensuring their work was both efficient and high quality. Emeka's furniture emporium quickly gained a reputation for excellence. His designs, inspired by traditional African artistry and modern minimalism, attracted clients from across the region. Chairs with intricately carved patterns, tables made from polished mahogany, and beds that blended comfort with elegance became hallmarks of the brand. Though he spent long hours overseeing the business, Emeka always remembered his roots. He ensured his workers were well paid, providing them with opportunities for growth and training. For him, success was not just about personal gain, it was about uplifting others. Meanwhile, Ifee pursued her passion for fashion. Enrolling in a prestigious fashion school in the city, she immersed herself in the art of design. Over a year and a half, she honed her skills, graduating as the best student in her class. With Emeka's support, she opened Ifee Couture House, a boutique that blended traditional African fabrics with contemporary styles. Her work gained recognition, and soon, clients flocked to her boutique, eager to wear her creations. Impact on the village. As Emeka and Ifee flourished, they did not forget Umidim. They became a beacon of hope for the villagers, who watched in awe as the couple returned periodically to give back to their community. Emeka launched initiatives to support local farmers, introducing modern techniques and equipment to improve productivity. He also built a borehole, ensuring the villagers had access to clean water, a luxury they had long lived without. Ifee, on her part, organized workshops for women, teaching them sewing and design skills. She provided sewing machines to the most committed participants, helping them establish their own businesses. The villagers' attitudes shifted over time. Those who had once mocked Emeka now looked at him with admiration and respect. Many approached him with gratitude, thanking him for his generosity. "Emeka, you are a blessing to this village," an elderly woman said during one of their visits. "Your story reminds us that even the most humble beginnings can lead to greatness." A home for Papa Obi. Papa Obi and Mama Obi found immense joy in their new mansion. For years, they had endured the hardships of poverty, their bodies bent under the weight of toil. Now, they spent their days in comfort, enjoying the peace that came with their transformed lives. Despite the modern luxuries surrounding them, the couple remained tied to their simple roots. Papa Obi could often be found sitting under the shade of the irako tree, humming the same folk songs he had sung in his youth. His joy came not just from material wealth, but from seeing his family thrive. "Emeka," he said one evening as they shared a quiet moment under the stars, "this life we now live is a gift. Promise me that no matter how successful you become, you will never forget this village. Our roots are here." "I promise, Papa," Emeka replied, his voice filled with emotion. "This place will always be home." Unexpected challenges. Wealth brought its own challenges. Some villagers, envious of Emeka's success, spread rumors, accusing him of acquiring his fortune through dubious means. Others attempted to exploit his generosity, constantly asking for handouts without making efforts to improve their own lives. One day, a man approached Emeka in his workshop, his tone accusatory. "You've forgotten where you came from, Emeka. You think your money makes you better than us?" Emeka paused, choosing his words carefully. "I haven't forgotten, my brother. That's why I've invested in this village, so others can rise too. But wealth isn't about giving money away. It's about creating opportunities." The man left, grumbling, but Emeka remained steadfast. He knew he could not control others' opinions, but he refused to let negativity dampen his spirit. Celebrating success. A year after their rise to wealth, Emeka and Ifee hosted a grand celebration in Umidim. They invited everyone, friends, neighbors, and even those who had once mocked them. The event was held in the village square, with tables laden with food and drinks. Traditional drummers played lively tunes, and dancers performed under the glow of lanterns. During the celebration, Emeka took the stage, addressing the crowd with humility. "My family and I are proof that life can change when you work hard and trust in God," he said. "I stand here not as someone above you, but as one of you. Together, we can build a brighter future for this village." His words were met with thunderous applause. For the first time, the villagers saw Emeka not just as a man who had escaped poverty, but as a leader who cared deeply about his community. A love that endured. Through all their success, Emeka and Ifee's love remained as strong as ever. They supported each other through challenges, celebrated each other's achievements, and found joy in the simple moments, sharing a meal, walking hand in hand through their garden, or sitting by the fire on cool evenings. Their marriage became an inspiration to many. Young couples in the village looked to them as an example of what could be achieved through unity, love, and perseverance. The growing legacy. As the years passed, Emeka and Ifee continued to expand their businesses and their impact on the village. They became parents, raising their children with the same values that had carried them through their struggles: hard work, humility, and compassion. The mansion in Umidim stood as a beacon of hope, a reminder to everyone that no dream was too big and no obstacle insurmountable. Emeka often reflected on how far they had come. From the dusty fields of Umidim to the bustling streets of the city, their journey had been one of transformation. Yet, through it all, their hearts remained tied to the place that had shaped them. Years passed, and the Obi family's life continued to flourish. Emeka and Ifee's children were growing, curious about the stories their parents often shared about the village of Umidim. The mansion stood as a beacon of prosperity, but it was the values of humility and generosity that the family cherished most. Every December, Emeka and his family returned to Umidim to celebrate the festive season. It was a tradition they held dear, a way to remind themselves and the villagers of their shared history. Each visit brought joy to the elders and inspired the youth, who now saw Emeka not as a man of wealth but as a symbol of perseverance. The final wishes of Papa and Mama Obi. One rainy afternoon, as the family gathered in the mansion's living room, Papa Obi called Emeka to sit by his side. His voice, though weak, carried the same authority and wisdom that had guided Emeka through life. "My son," he began, "your mother and I have lived longer than we ever expected. This house, this life, it is more than we could have dreamed of. But there is one thing I must ask of you." "Anything, Papa," Emeka replied, his eyes glistening with emotion. "When the time comes for us to join our ancestors, we wish to be buried here in Umidim. This is our home, the place where our story began. Promise me you will honor this." Emeka nodded solemnly. "I promise, Papa. And I will ensure that this house remains a part of our family for generations." Mama Obi, seated beside her husband, added with a smile, "And don't forget to visit often. Teach your children and grandchildren about this village, so they never forget where they come from." A village transformed. The impact of the Obi family's success was visible throughout Umidim. The borehole provided clean water, and the cooperative farming initiatives introduced by Emeka had boosted the villagers' productivity and income. Ifee's workshops had empowered dozens of women, many of whom now ran their own small tailoring businesses. The village square, once dusty and barren, had been revitalized with benches, shaded areas, and a small library that Emeka built in memory of his parents. The library became a hub for learning, where children and adults alike could access books and resources they had never seen before. The villagers often spoke of the miracle that was Emeka and his family. They no longer mocked him. Instead, they held him in high regard, often citing his journey as an example to their children. The passing of the torch. One bright morning, 5 years after Emeka and Ifee had become wealthy, Papa Obi peacefully passed away in his sleep. 2 months later, Mama Obi followed, her heart unable to bear the loneliness of life without her lifelong companion. Their deaths, though heartbreaking, were a celebration of lives well lived. The villagers gathered en masse to honor the couple, whose wisdom and resilience had inspired not only their son but an entire community. Emeka ensured their final wishes were fulfilled, building a small mausoleum in the family compound where they were laid to rest side by side. During the funeral, Emeka addressed the crowd, his voice trembling with emotion. "My parents taught me that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. They believed in me even when no one else did. Today, I honor them by continuing to live by their values and ensuring this village thrives." The generational legacy. After the funeral, Emeka gathered his children around the family's ancestral home. He showed them the cracked walls of the old house and the spot where he had unearthed the diamond that changed their lives. "This is where it all began," he told them. "Never forget that no matter how high you rise, your roots are what give you strength." His eldest daughter, Adaora, looked at her father with admiration. "Papa," she said, "one day, I want to make a difference just like you and Mama." Her words filled Emeka's heart with pride. He saw in her the same determination that had driven him and Ifee through their toughest days. The annual pilgrimage. True to his promise, Emeka made the mansion in Umidim a center for family gatherings. Every Christmas, the Obis returned to the village, bringing gifts and sharing meals with the community. The mansion became a symbol of unity, its gates open to anyone in need. Emeka also hired caretakers to maintain the house year-round, ensuring it remained a welcoming place for future generations. The villagers, seeing this act of devotion, often remarked, "The Obi family has given this village more than we could ever have asked for." Reflections of a grateful heart. As Emeka sat on the porch of the mansion one evening, watching his children play under the twilight sky, he reflected on his journey. The laughter of his children and the sight of the thriving village filled him with a profound sense of gratitude. He turned to Ifee, who sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his. "We've come so far," he said softly. Ifee smiled, her eyes glistening with emotion. Yes, we have. And it all started with hope, and a diamond buried in the ground. Emeka chuckled, the sound warm and full of life. A diamond that taught us the greatest treasures are often hidden beneath the surface, waiting for those willing to dig. The lesson of hope. The story of Emeka and Ifee became a legend in Umidim, passed down from generation to generation. It was a tale of resilience, humility, and the power of hope. The villagers taught their children that no matter how dire one's circumstances, life could turn around with hard work, faith, and perseverance. For Emeka, the greatest reward was not the wealth he had acquired but the lives he had touched and the legacy he had built. His story served as a reminder that every seed, no matter how small, could grow into a mighty tree if nurtured with care and determination. And so, the mansion in Umidim stood as a symbol of hope, a beacon that shone brightly, reminding everyone who passed through its gates that no dream was too big and no obstacle insurmountable. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.